Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of the True North CFL podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Leach. You can follow me on Twitter at aka Jimmy Leach.
I'm Taylor Curry, and you can follow me at Taylor Curry SK on Instagram and Twitter.
And I'm Cutter Kennington. You can follow me on Instagram at Cutter Kennington.
Now, before we kick this episode off, we have some other announcements to make. I know we're making a lot of changes around here, but we've recently put up social media accounts, so you can follow the True North CFL podcast now on Twitter and Instagram. And Taylor, you're a social media guy. So what's our
Yes,
Twitter
sir.
at?
Our Twitter is True North CFL Pod.
All right. So if you're on Twitter and you want to support us, go give us a follow on there or on Instagram. Both help. And now let's kick the show off. All right. So Calgary obviously beat Toronto. Shocker, I know. 23-16.
Closer than what I thought.
Uh-huh. So guys, why won't the Argos give it to James Wilder? They never like to run the ball.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if they're trying to diminish his value or what they're doing, but 4 carries. He averaged 10 yards a carry. And, they threw him the ball 5 times, but they're not utilizing him as they should. So it's really up in the air, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens this offseason if he sticks around or not.
I like what you said about diminishing value because, are they trying to make him think that he's not worth as much as he is? Or, maybe it's just sort of a coaching thing where, I don't even know what you would do in that situation, but that's really all I could see. I really like that about the diminishing value, though.
I think, yeah, diminishing value is the only thing that really makes sense because James Wilder is a talented running back. And
Yeah, he can catch and run.
Yeah, that's true. He's a dual threat guy, and we've seen him play well, this year. We've seen flashes of that rookie campaign. So it's not like he's a bad running back. So it must be like a salary cap tactic, maybe, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe they're avoiding bonuses for him or something.
It makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's got to be it. All right, so guys, when I heard this number, I honestly didn't believe it, but Toronto didn't even get 10,000 fans to their game. They got 9,819 fans to their game. Guys, what do the Argos need to do to get fans? Seriously.
Oh, it's such a good question because they try. Their tickets are cheap, and in the summer there they had giveaways where if you bought tickets to their fair that came through, that you got to go to the Argo game for free, and they have $5 beers and cheap hot dogs. And there's no other really, the Leafs aren't playing yet, the Raptors aren't playing. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think the best way to get fans to go watch Toronto is to take the team out of Toronto and put it anywhere else.
That's a good one.
I don't think I've said it before, but Toronto fans, they've got the Blue Jays, they've got the Raptors, they've got the Maple Leafs, they've got their MLS team. They don't need to watch what a lot of people consider the second-rate football players play their game. Why would you do that when you can watch Kawhi Leonard win you a championship?
Yeah, that makes sense. I can't really argue with that as a Raptor fan.
Yeah, and I know they're kind of not lined up right now, but if you're a family of 4, are you going to save up to go see the Raptors or the Leafs or the Jays, or are you going to go see the Argonauts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really. I've heard several reasons. Although, in fairness, Taylor, they did have a good size of fans during that fair game, or if you got a ticket, you got to the game free or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was really their only game where people showed up. The thing I've heard is, one, it's really difficult to get to that stadium.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I'm guessing maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I just don't like the quality of the field because that one end zone is completely wrong turf.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. And just little things like that. And yeah, again, I think the market is an issue too. I think they need to move it out to suburban Toronto, like build a stadium in Mississauga or something, where
Yeah,
you still have a healthy population of people, because a lot of those people aren't going to be able to take the train into an area where it's hard to get to in downtown Toronto to watch the
Well,
Argos play. You know?
and correct me if I'm wrong too, but I think our guest last week, James, mentioned that they might be moving stadiums too. There's small talks of it so far.
Yeah, he did mention that. I haven't heard anything about that, but that was definitely interesting, and it's something they should definitely look into. But
Yeah.
if they're gonna look at relocating, it would make more sense to go to suburban Toronto. It's the same problem with the Lions, right?
yeah.
Most of the BC Lion fans aren't in downtown Vancouver.
Yeah.
They're in the suburbs. So you should, maybe look at getting a stadium out there. Like Ottawa, I don't think their stadium is right in the heart of downtown Ottawa, is it?
I'm not exactly sure. That's a stadium I haven't been to yet.
I haven't been there either, but just looking kind of around it, there's a lot of green space and stuff. Like it looks like there's a park there. There's some apartment buildings. Like
Yeah.
it looks like a bit of a suburb. So
Mhm.
if you're, I think you have to move away from stadiums in the heart of cities if you're in those big markets, and you have to go to
Yeah,
your
yeah,
fans.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Now, the Argos announced that they're going to be starting James Franklin this week instead of McLeod Bethel Thompson. Uh, how do you guys think he'll do in this start against the Riders this week?
Well, if he was playing Ottawa, I'd say he'd be playing okay, but he's got a pretty good defense to go against this week. So I don't think it's going to work out for Toronto, and I think it's the wrong choice. McLeod has been playing really well, and he had one off game, which was last week recently. But other than that, he's been playing lights out. Possible MOP candidate, as you see on
Hmm.
our page on
He's
Instagram and Twitter.
he's in the
So
conversation.
Yeah,
exactly. So I just don't get it. I've heard rustling that they might try to trade Franklin, and they're trying to show that he still has value. But it doesn't make sense if you want to try to at least try to win games, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. I think if I were to say like touchdown interception ratio that I expect him to do, in all honesty, I'm saying 2 touchdowns to 2 or 3 interceptions probably. Um, Maybe even worse than that. But I mean, it's hard to say because Saskatchewan does have one of the strongest defenses in the league, and James Franklin just we don't really know what we're getting, but MBT was just so good. So
I think.
yeah, it's hard to
Absolutely.
say.
Oh yeah, I think with Franklin, you're probably going to get around 250 passing yards, a touchdown, and interception against Saskatchewan, along with maybe some rushing yards. But yeah, I think the only reason they could be doing this is trade. But
Hmm.
where do you guys think they're gonna go with that? Like, where is James Franklin gonna land in this league? Because most places are set at that position.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if he goes to a lot of places, he'd be a backup. Like, if he goes to Edmonton to back up Harris or Calgary, like, I don't see him really going out west. I could see Ottawa maybe taking a chance, but I feel like they could do better, and maybe they think that too. So it's really who's willing to give up what Toronto's going to ask for him, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, if Winnipeg was willing to talk to Drew Willie and a bunch of other quarterbacks about returning, who knows? Maybe they'll throw something out there for Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. I would take James Franklin over any Ottawa quarterback right now if
Oh,
you
100%.
made me
Yeah.
pick. Yeah, but I can see because Kolaros got was traded for a fourth round pick. I could see Franklin going for a third.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe from Ottawa
Yeah.
or Winnipeg. But yeah, I don't know if he has insane value now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Now, guys, do you think they've released Chalin in the off season just with the mess that organization is in right now?
I hope he's not the scapegoat. Like, I really don't think it's all his fault. They have the talent on both sides of the ball. Like, some of the best players are on that team. Like, their receiving core is unbelievable, but they've been lacking in the fourth quarters, and it's bit them in the butt almost every game. So I hope he doesn't get it, but I definitely could see him being a target to release.
I think that all 8 of Toronto's fans are going to be saying to fire Chamberlain, but I agree. I don't think it's the I don't think it's the right call. I think it's really just I don't know if it's the mindset some of the players have, but like I think if they can learn how to play 4 consistent quarters, start to finish, next year they could be a pretty good team. They could be a playoff team next year.
Right,
But
like
yeah,
they won the Grey Cup like 2 or 3 years ago. Like
yeah,
it's not like it's not there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One move I like that they did is they got Jonathan Mincy, who was just cut by the Bears.
Yeah.
That dude's a lockdown corner, so he really helps that bad secondary. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what Toronto does in the offseason. I don't think Chamberlain gets the boot this year, but if they have another bad start, I think maybe he goes, and I think there's potential for some of that staff to get fired in the offseason, but I think Corey is safe for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so on to second game of the week, Hamilton versus Edmonton, where Hamilton beat the Eskimos 30-27. That was a pretty close game.
Hmm.
Now, guys, do you think Edmonton has kind of pattered out near the end of the season?
I think just with Trevor Harris missing too, it shows a little more, but I mean, you don't see as much out of CJ Gable as you did at the start of the year. He caught some balls this week, but Greg Ellingson isn't making the splashes. Ricky Collins isn't making the splashes. Tavares Daniels isn't doing anything. So I think they're definitely starting to slow down, and it could really hurt them in this playoff push.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because like Edmonton kind of just it almost feels like overnight. It was like everyone was talking about them making playoffs, and then before you know it, everyone's talking about them possibly even not making playoffs if BC makes a miracle push.
Let's
Like,
hope.
Yep.
but
That's
I
Taylor's
mean,
hot take, guys. BC's making it.
I mean, but yeah, it's weird to see Edmonton fall so drastically, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. I think they are just sort of getting fatigued right now. But yeah, Trevor Harris being gone does not help at all.
I think
Yeah.
even before Harris was gone, they were having trouble too, because all we could seem to talk about was their red zone issues when Harris was there, which
Yeah,
followed him from
absolutely.
Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
So these problems existed before then. I think they need to go to Shaq Cooper at running back because he offers a bit more explosiveness than Gable. But they have really dropped off as the season's progressed.
Well, yeah, they've lost 4 games in a row. Like everyone thought they were going to win the Grey Cup at the start of the year. They were sitting in first place, and now they've lost 4 in a row. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
not looking good.
Trevor Harris is in the MVP conversation. Now that's pretty much gone. Like the other Andrew Harris gone too.
Yeah.
Contention. Both Harrises are out, so. The score was 21-0 for Hamilton in the first quarter. Dane Evans had 3 touchdown passes, a 2-point convert, and 197 yards passing. That was all in the first quarter. Man, what's going on with that Edmonton defense? Like, they really regressed there, didn't they?
Well, yeah, you're not seeing as much from their D line, and their DBs just aren't getting the interceptions that they used to. Like they did get. Oh, sorry. I guess they got 3 interceptions last game, so not too bad. And they got 3 sacks, but it wasn't game changing plays. Like it didn't help them get any closer to a win. They did what they could, but they just couldn't get there.
Yeah, I'm gonna argue the other side of this. Actually, I think that Dane Evans is like when you leave him to like do his work, he will get it done, and he is a monster when you let him produce the way like he can in that first quarter. Like, I mean, Edmonton just wasn't doing enough to him, and it showed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, true. I think it's a bit of a regression of that Edmonton defense. I think people are starting to figure them out. That D line is definitely nowhere on the same level as they were at the start of the year when everybody was saying they're the best in the league. Certainly not anymore. Although I'd be curious to see how they do with their new additions. Yeah, they're not getting
Yeah.
the pressure that they once did. So that definitely hurts. And I don't think that secondary was that good anyway to begin with.
No, yeah, I actually have to correct myself. They only got one interception, and they got 4 sacks last game. But yeah, not game-changing plays by any means. Like where you see Willie Jefferson get a sack fumble against other teams and kind of change the momentum. It's not happening in Edmonton.
Mhm.
So, oh yeah, we did kind of talk about where Edmonton's defense was at. All right, can Dane Evans lead this team to a Grey Cup? Do you guys think?
I don't think to a Grey Cup, but he's definitely going to keep them holding first place. They're 3 games up on Montreal right now, but like I honestly I doubted when Jeremiah went out. I thought that their season was done, but Dane Evans is proving to be a pretty good game manager, and he's getting them wins when they need to.
Yeah, I think personally, it's weird because I don't want to put myself out there again and like say like one of those like far out predictions. But in my gut right now, I feel like Dane Evans could get them to a Grey Cup game, but I don't think he can win that game. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like yeah, I don't know. How far do you guys think he can take this team? Honestly,
I th- I think that they lose to Montreal in the East Final. I just think Montreal's too good to beat or to lose to or Hamilton. Sorry, yeah. I think they'll go to the Eastern Final and that's it.
I mean, because I'm assuming Hamilton's going to finish first this season. I mean, it could go either way still, but I think Hamilton's pretty much got it almost. So, I mean, saying that Montreal's going to walk in there and win, I could believe it. If you told me that happened, then yeah. But I mean, for me, I think that Hamilton can win that game. It's hard. It's hard to tell for me.
I'm in the same mindset. I think Hamilton is Taylor. I think Hamilton loses to Montreal in the West Final. I just think Kahari Jones has really turned that team around, and I think this is their time. And I
Yeah,
think it's probably going to be Montreal has a genuine shot at winning the Grey Cup this year.
Yeah.
I think so. But you look at the rest of Hamilton's schedule; they play Winnipeg, Edmonton. They have a bye, and then they play Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto. So they have an interesting schedule coming up where there could be some testy games in there.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. All right, so we're going to discuss hands down the game of the week. This was an epic choke job by Winnipeg where Montreal somehow came out on top 38-37 after being down by a significant margin in the first half. They somehow managed to come back and win this game. Now, guys, what's stopping Winnipeg from locking up these games?
Uh, now I'm sure Carter will have a great response, but I think they're not like they just get overconfident. It was 34-17 at half. I think they thought they had it in the bag. They slowed up, and then when they opened their eyes again, Montreal was back in the race.
Okay, so um, first thing I want to say here is I have no disrespect towards Montreal Alouettes. They played a great game. They won for a reason, right? That comeback was amazing. But with that being said, oh my god. Okay. What is up with the second half, guys? Why can't you produce at all?
Three
I had
points.
to look up the stats throughout this season. Our first half points, Winnipeg Blue Bombers first half points, 261 compared to 131 second half points. A
Holy
difference of
cow!
130? Are you
That's
kidding me?
nuts.
That's bad.
How can you be that dominant and then that dead in a span of a 15-minute interval?
I think it's because coordinators make adjustments, maybe. Winnipeg might not be adjusting as well as their counterpart coordinator, maybe.
I don't care what team you are, you do not throw a 20-point fourth quarter lead away.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
That's brutal.
Like, I don't know if they're just in the mindset of playing to not lose, but they need to get in the mindset of winning. Because I think that's what switch flips is that, okay, we got to preserve the lead instead of let's extend the lead.
Yeah, maybe. They might not have that killer instinct, is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That some other teams do.
And do you think it's them tired in the second half, or they're not working as hard, or like
Um,
they think they have it locked up. Like it's
I
tough.
I think it's the second one there. I think that they've just like I doubt they're getting tired. You know, they're professional athletes. They're not gonna gas out like that. But like, oh come on, man! I was so excited for this segment. Like at halftime, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great to talk about how good my team is doing this week. No,
Nope.
no, I'm
Sight.
Then Vernon Adams happened.
uh
Oh my goodness, man. Yep. But do you think maybe it was because Winnipeg got a little bit too cocky with the big leads? Like, because they also blew a big one to Toronto earlier in the year.
Well, and that's just kind of continue on what we're talking about. Like, are they getting too cocky? Like, you don't see them taunting too much on the field, but it just seems like the gas isn't there in the second half. And with Carter's point differential there in the first and second half, like it seems like there is a clear problem in Winnipeg with them scoring points in the second half.
um oh man, there's if I could think back to one play in the second half that sort of locked it in for me, it was when we're up by 6 still, and it was 2nd and 9, and I don't know who made this play call. I think whoever made this play call, it is their fault that we lost because it was 2nd and 9. Trevor fakes a handoff and tries to cut it back the other way.
Ooh.
Dude, everyone's expecting either a quick pass or the straight QB draw. So they're probably sending a blitz. And as soon as he does the handoff and turns around, everyone knows what's going on and the pocket collapses immediately. He's down and that's it. So whoever made that call, for me, cost them the game.
I don't know if you can fault one play there because that defense let Vernon Adams let him have his way with them because he had
That's true. That's true.
488 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns.
That's true. I am getting a little harsh on the offense for that one, but defense becomes even more asleep, I feel, in the second half.
Yeah, that D just disappeared, and Vernon Adams, I think Vernon just flipped a switch and just went beast mode in that second half. It's the only way I can describe it because he turned on another gear there. Like, that was a great game from him. I've always been a huge fan of Vernon Adams. I've never been shy about admitting that, so I'm glad that, he was able to show that Montreal does have that killer instinct that maybe Winnipeg doesn't.
Yeah, I mean they've got to get it. They have to get that if they want to go far in the playoffs. Because
yeah,
they gotta if they don't have that, they're not getting past Saskatchewan this season. They're probably going to lose both of those games to Calgary. They're going to get swept there, fall to third, and probably get knocked out in the first round. If they don't get their poop in a group, it's over. Their season is a bust, and they got to go back to square one, deciding whether to keep Nichols or Strebler.
Poop in a group. I like that one.
That'll be a hashtag.
Trying not to swear. Not to swear.
I know, but still, that's still good. But for me, it's I think the teams that have that killer instinct right now, Saskatchewan definitely has it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Vernon Adams definitely has it.
Yep.
Calgary, I think they do.
Glimpses.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Calgary does too, but I don't know does anybody else have that in the league that you guys have seen?
I mean, if we're considering that, if we're equating that to clutch time in the fourth, then I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's just those teams.
Yeah, me too.
So we move on to the final game of the week, where BC creamed Ottawa 40-7, aka the Dumpster Fire Bowl.
Ooh.
Now, guys,
cruel but appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate name for it. Now, guys, Brian Burnham has gone over 1,000 yards this season, which is 4 straight for him now in a row. Is he the best receiver in the league? If not, where is he in your guys' mind?
I think he's probably a top 5 receiver for sure, but you got to think of Brandon Banks, especially this year, Reggie Bagleton. Darrell Walker's up there too, Greg Ellingson. So I think he's in the talks, but I don't think he's the best receiver in the league.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I agree with you. I think that when you get to a position like receiver, there are so many different ways that the receivers can be played and used like that. So it's hard for you to just say like, oh, this one's the best because he's got the most yards. Well, this one might have more touchdowns, whatever the case may be. So like when you get to like this level of wide receiver, it kind of feels like it's almost just what you feel is the best, like who you think is having a better year. So yeah, I'd put him up there, but I don't know if I would put him as like the top guy yet.
Same. In my opinion, Brian Burnham's probably a top 5 or top 10. I don't think he's number one. I think number one, it's probably either Darrell Walker or Reggie Bagleton for me.
Ooh, you got to throw Brandon Banks in there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I've never been a Brandon Banks guy.
He gets the touchdowns and yards, and then he gets the kick returns and punt returns. So I think he might be number one for me, but
That's true.
it's tough. It's
But
tough.
the
Yeah.
problem is with Banks is he'll have his games where he gets 1 or 2 catches, like that Ottawa game, and
Yeah,
I value consistency a lot when I'm looking at a number one
Yeah.
receiver, and that's why I just
Yeah.
don't have Banks in that conversation.
fair enough.
Now, do you guys think BC can keep this momentum going and make the playoffs since Edmonton's starting to kind of fall here at the end of the season?
I think it'll be tough. Like they play Montreal this week with no Vernon Adams, so they could win there. They play Toronto, and then they're in Edmonton, and then they're hosting Saskatchewan. So they have a tough stretch coming up. It could be possible, but Edmonton's really got to start sinking too, big time.
I mean, it'd be a great story, right? Like, you have huge expectations for this team, and then they drop off the face of the earth for like almost the entire season, only to storm back and like grab the last playoff spot, like right from Edmonton, who's sort of they could very easily fall apart right now. I mean, I think we're starting to actually watch it happen. It'd be a fun story to watch. I really hope that they do, but it's hard to say that they actually will.
Now, to quote Duron Carter from 3 days ago, y'all going to be so hot when we make the playoffs. I can just see it now. A bunch of cherry red typing away at their phones about blah blah blah.
Dang.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see BC in the playoffs. Do I
if
think they
if
can do it? I'm not sure because I think they need to win this game or Ottawa has to lose to keep their playoff hopes alive. So I think this is a must-win game for them this week if they want to get in the playoffs.
yeah, fair enough. And to go back to what you were saying before about Duron Carter, if they do make the playoffs, Duron, you got to step it up. You got to be better.
Hey, he threw a touchdown last week.
Yeah, really.
But like, just in general, man, like seeing from how he started from the season, he's getting better. But like, I still think he's not his old self yet. So
Oh, yeah, there's lots of room for improvement in BC for
Mhm.
sure.
I think you
Yeah.
can say that about literally anyone on that team. To be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on to Ottawa. They've tried Dom Davis. They've tried John Jennings. They've tried Will Arndt. What do they do at quarterback?
It sucks because they've had such a good fan base there. Like they still pulled out 21,000 fans at the last game, but like really, you're pretty much not going to make the playoffs. So why not see what you have in Will Arndt and give him the ball, let him roll, see if he's one of your competitors for next year to take that number one job.
Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, you already know what you got with Jennings and Davis, and there is a question mark on Arndt, so you might as well give him the shot. And then if it doesn't work, then I mean, you gotta try and see. I mean, it would be a miracle if they could pick up whoever Winnipeg doesn't decide to keep. But I mean, we'll see who even goes in that situation, and if they're able to pick them up. Maybe they don't need to because maybe Arndt is a competitor.
Yeah, I have to agree. You might have to look at Arndt, give him a bit more of a look, maybe a full game, but with Ottawa in the position they are now, they're still not eliminated. They still have a good chance, or a decent chance at least. So I think they maybe look at making what we mentioned earlier, a trade for James Franklin, or they look to free agency like a Brandon. I honestly think Brandon Bridge is a better option than they have a quarterback. Even Drew
Mm,
Willie, you know?
yeah, I'd like to see Drew Willie get another shot.
I would too behind a good old line. I think he could,
Yeah.
resurrect his career.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys think he stays in BC next year, or where do you think he goes?
Well, I'm pretty sure he signed to a 1 year deal, so it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of spans out. Like he's starting to really pick it up now. He had a touchdown. He had his first touchdown last week, and then he had a receiving touchdown this past weekend here, and then he had a throwing touchdown. So it seems like they're getting him more involved, but I just hope it's not too little, too late in Ed Hervey's mind if he sticks around too.
I think it might be a little bit of too little, too late, but I mean, we'll see because like Duron Carter, we kind of like nobody really knows where his mind's at. He's like a like in my mind, I always pegged him as like a less controversial AB, where it's just like you kind of don't know what to expect out of him, you know? Like no, but I don't mean that in the fact that he's like trying to like cause like trying to break contracts and that, or even like that kind of thing. I just think sort of like nobody really knows what sort of games he's playing at, so he could literally end up anywhere.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think Duran has shown flashes of being, like his dad, but at the same time, he also kind of disappeared at times. So I'm unsure of what to really think with him anymore. I don't know. I think maybe he stays in BC. The only other place I could really see him going is Ottawa.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
Hamilton too.
It,
Well, no, Hamilton's pretty full, so
yeah, but
yeah.
it's like that. My point. It's like you can literally like I feel like you could make a case for like anywhere. Like I don't know.
Yeah, you really could.
I don't know about that. I don't think because he's just a wide receiver. I don't think he plays slot. So where would he go? He couldn't go to Sask for sure. Edmonton, they're good.
Depending on how Winnipeg shapes up, he could go there. Could you imagine that?
Maybe. Do you really think he could beat out Darvin Adams?
No, if he's trying to be the main guy, no.
Yeah, I think maybe he could go to
See, yeah.
Calgary and be that boundary wide receiver because they kind
Oh yeah.
of had that be a rotation last near the end of last year. It was Chris Matthews. This year it's been kind of split between Markeith Ambles and Josh Huff. So maybe that's a spot for him. I'm trying to think of more team.
Montreal.
I
No,
would
Montreal's got Devere Posey. They're good.
I wouldn't be surprised if Duron Carter sort of bides his time and then he becomes like the star guy on the Atlantic roster in a few years.
Oh,
Oh,
that'd be good promotion for the CFL because I mean
Hmm.
he interacts with fans so
He is,
much and
and
he
he is
does a
a big
lot.
name.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that could be a good name to get out there to kind of be the face of your franchise.
Yeah, it's like because for the first few years, like in Ottawa, you needed that like recognizable, Henry Burris there,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that happening where they kind of market him in scooters if they, come into the league in a couple years. I think that could work.
And I think for him personally, I think a fresh slate with a brand new team, I think that might be the best place for him as well,
Maybe,
just like
yeah.
as a
Yeah.
person.
So now on to the fantasy part of our show. For recap notes from last week, we have the fact that VA got 43.3 points in one game, and that is now the highest points a quarterback has scored in a game, passing Trevor Harris, who had previously passed VA's own record. So, guys, we're going to move on to my picks for value picks this week. I have Shaq Johnson at just under 3,400. Tavon Smith at, again, just under 3,400. Marcus Tucker at 2,700. And Kenny Lawler at 2,500. Did I miss anybody, you guys think? Or is there someone I should take off?
Uh, Depending on the running back situation, which makes it tough, I might add Jackson Bennett. He hasn't done the best this year, but if you're looking for a cheap running back at 3,500 on the dot, he might be an option this week against Winnipeg. It's tough, but if they're handing it off lots, I think he could be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the value picks, you got it pretty well in the head. I like the shout for Lawler, being a Bomber fan, but I don't think he's gonna get that much, if I'm being honest. Just with Strebler being more of a runner than a thrower, so like with him already being on the lower end of the reception count. So I mean, with that one, I kind of disagree, but like I think it's still fair to put him on there. And with all the others, I agree.
Yeah, I think so. Again,
I
value picks are a gamble, right? So Lawler could get a lot, or he could get just a couple, but I think he's going to get a bit more points. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one more to add. Sorry, I actually have him in my lineup, and it's Kristen Jones. Uh, Throughout last week, through all the stats, he ended up getting over 10 fantasy points. So might not be bad against Ottawa this week.
that's interesting. Did he get any runs or receptions that game, or how did he get over 10?
Uh, he had 2 catches for 16 yards, and that got him 3.6 points. He had 45 punt return yards, which got him just about 2. And his kickoff returns got him 1.5. He got 36 yards, and his missed field goal return yards got him 4 points.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he wouldn't be a bad pick, I don't think, especially if they're going to involve him in the offense.
Well, yeah, and they're playing Ottawa, so.
True. So now we move on to our best positional options. For QB, I have Mike Riley at 9,900, Cody Fajardo at 8,463, and Chris Streveler at just over 8,000. I was gonna have Vernon Adams in there too, but I won't spoil that news. I'll save that for the news segment. What do you guys think of that group of quarterbacks?
I think you hit it right on the head there. I got Fajardo in my lineup personally, and if I had to pick others, I would have picked Mike Riley or Chris Streveler. Uh, Dane Evans is a gamble this week, I think. He's low price, but with against that Winnipeg defense, it could get ugly.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like with the quarterback position this week, it's very clear, and you don't really get that too often. It's kind of like you could pick like within usually it's like 5 guys, but with this one, I feel like it's got to be Riley, Fajardo, or Strebler. Personally, I'm choosing Strebler, but like strong cases for all.
Same here. I am rolling with Streveler. Another guy to keep your eye on is the Montreal situation. If they're starting Matthew Schultz, he's a nice cheap option at just $5,000. So if you want to reach up and get an expensive running back or something to that kind of equivalent, then he might be a guy worth starting. Another option, and now we're on to running backs. So Andrew Harris at just over $10,000. William Powell at just over 8,400. Stanback at 7,000, and John White at just under 6,700. What do you guys think of that?
Pretty good. Yeah, I got Andrew Harris in my lineup personally. He should have a good game. I actually have William Stanback as my flex now. Teams don't play the best in BC, but I think with kind of the low production he had last week, that he'll be more involved.
Yeah, I mean, I've also got Harrison. It's starting to sound like I'm a real homer. Those are the only Bombers. Strepler and Harris are the only ones I've got for Bombers. But yeah, I mean, I feel like all those running backs are really strong choices. But yeah, I'm expecting Harris to have a huge game because he had the chip on his shoulder coming back from the suspension, and now that he lost that game by a point, I feel like he's even gonna be more like just more intense in this game.
Yeah, it's a fair statement to make. But yeah, those are basically your only real options at running back this week because the lowest starting running back is Moses Madu at 6,200. And then, but I would not touch Moses Madu with a 10-foot pole.
Mm-hmm.
John White, he's reasonably priced, and Stamak again, somewhat well priced backs. Looking for those, and then obviously on the higher end, Powell and Harris. Now, there's a good amount of receivers this week. You have Brian Burnham at over 10,000, Addison at just over 94, Devere Posey at just over 7,300, Shaq Evans at just over 6,600, Juan Bray at just under 4,500, Jordan Williams Lambert, I'm actually putting on here now. He's a risk, but he's just over 4,600. Um, and then Chris Matthews is the last one on there at 3687. Now, I removed Quan Bray because VA isn't starting this game, it's gonna probably be Schultz or Pipkin, so I would just stay away from Bray for this game. But anyone else you guys are thinking about that's not on that list?
The only guy I don't have on that list on my team is Duron Carter for the
Oh,
third week in a row.
again.
Oh my god.
Yep, I think he's rolling, and he's cheap. He's only $4,100, so I think he can do it for that price. I'm keeping him in.
Fair enough, though.
Fair
Like,
enough.
come on.
He's been performing well for Taylor, so I don't blame Taylor for sticking with the guy. I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, on my my wide receiver duo is Williams Lambert and Posey, so both on the list there. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I really like both of those guys this week, so I think it's gonna be. I think those two are really good locks for me. Not my lock, but you know
My
what I mean.
duo right now is Williams Lambert and Ricky Collins, although that might change later in the week as
Ooh.
I kind of play with things. But yeah. And then if your team defense, this week you have really two good options, I think. You have Edmonton, who's playing Ottawa, and from what I hear, might be rotating quarterbacks in that game. At under 4,000, 3950 to be exact. And Saskatchewan, which is 5,248 against James Franklin. Any other defense you guys would consider, or would you eliminate one of those?
I wouldn't eliminate one, but I might add Montreal's defense. While Vernon Adams isn't there, their defense is still pretty potent. So, playing BC this week, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, that's true. BC is sort of like the twilight zone when it comes to CFL. It's like really anything could happen there. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for me this week, like I think every week I've been on the podcast, I've been team no defense, and it's staying true this week.
All right. Well, fair enough. We'll move on to our locks here. Now, for me, my lock is John White. For reasons stated previously, he's the second lowest price starting back that we know of. Again, I'm excluding Hamilton because knows what's going on in Hamilton. And I think he gives you great bang for your buck. Um, Again, if you want to go after higher tiered receivers or add a defense in there, I think he's a great option to have in your lineup.
Yeah, not bad. I have Cody Fajardo as my lock this week. When he previously played Toronto, he put up 25.2 fantasy points through 430 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think he's a really safe bet this week against that defense.
Yeah, and for my lock, I'm going with Strevler. I feel like he's the cheapest out of the three, who we put as the best positional, like best QBs for this week. And I mean, we've said it before on this podcast. He's a running back and a quarterback. You like those points just add up. I'm expecting somewhere between like the high 20s, hopefully low 30s for. We'll see how that goes.
All right, so on to the news segment for this week. James Franklin, as we said earlier, starting for Toronto this week. VA was handed a one game suspension for a dangerous and reckless act. That was him hitting Big Hill with a helmet and grabbing him by the face mask. Stampeders running back Kadeem Carey has a broken arm and is done for the season. Matthew Schultz is taking first team reps in Alouettes practice, so it's likely he starts against BC. It is reported that Ottawa will play both Jennings and Davis in this week's game. Andrew Harris did not practice Monday or Tuesday.
Trevor Harris.
Oh yeah, Trevor Harris, sorry. I always script Harris's. Alright, so we're introducing a new segment this week called Game Time Questions. This segment's not going to be like the draft where it's going to take a while. That's a sort of once every couple of months thing. This is going to be every single podcast where we ask one important question and discuss it about each game of the upcoming weeks. So we'll start with Hamilton versus Winnipeg. Which backup do you guys think will throw for more yards?
I think Dane Evans will throw for more yards, but I think Strevler could have more total yards.
I agree with that. I think Dane Evans has got more of an arm on him than Tripler, at least in terms of throwing power.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Evans will have more throwing yards, but Strevler might have more total yards with his rushing ability. So it'll be close there in overall yards, but yeah, Dane's definitely getting more throwing yards. All right, so Edmonton versus Ottawa. Does Ottawa pull this game out with Edmonton kind of being gassed or not playing very well?
I think since it's in Ottawa, it'll be a closer game, but I think Edmonton still walks away with the win.
Yeah, I don't see Ottawa winning this game whatsoever. Um, like I don't think they can touch Edmonton. I don't think they can touch anybody in the league right now.
Yeah, as bad as Edmonton's kind of falling right now, Ottawa's the free spot on the bingo card right now.
Yeah.
Now, how long does Franklin last in the Saskatchewan versus Toronto game? Do you guys think? Does he go the full one, or do you think
Uh,
he gets pulled?
I think he gets pulled. I just think that defense is going to target him. And he actually started last time the Riders played him, and he didn't play the best. So, yeah, I think he lasts a half.
Yeah, I was gonna say a half if you didn't. I think he gets pulled eventually because I don't know. I mean, if Toronto's still trying to really win games for this year, then I think they got to pull him at half. Unless he's unless they're winning by a good margin.
Something similar happened last year with Macbeth and Franklin kind of tore it up near the end of the year. So I think you just leave Franklin in for the whole game, honestly, especially if you're trying to trade him. Because if he has a bad first half, maybe he has a great second half, and that helps his stock.
Yeah,
Yep, that's my opinion. And then
fair enough.
yep, the last game of the week is Montreal versus BC. Can BC make it a competitive game at home, especially with Vernon Adams being suspended?
I think it makes their chances definitely a lot better. And BC plays better at home than some people might think. So I think they can definitely make it a competitive game.
Oh, absolutely, they can make it competitive. It makes it almost, in my opinion, a toss up between them if you take Vernon Adams out of the equation and BC being surprisingly good at.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. So on to our last segment predictions here. For me, I have Winnipeg over Hamilton. I have Edmonton beating Ottawa, Saskatchewan beating Toronto, and I'm actually going to switch my pick this week. I originally had Montreal, but with the Vernon Adams suspension, I'm going to switch my pick to BC.
Yeah, I'm going the same as you, Mike. I got all the same teams as you, and I originally had Montreal picked, but I'm switching to BC too.
Yeah, I've got Winnipeg, Edmonton, Sask, and I'm not switching, but I also picked BC to start with. So it looks like we're all on the same page here.
I think this is the first show that we've had consensus predictions, so that's
I think so.
it's good.
Yeah.
Yep. So that concludes the show. Remember to watch the podcast, now available on 3 platforms: YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And make sure to give our social medias a follow. Taylor, do you want to plug that?
Yeah, sure. Our Instagram is True North CFL Podcast, and our Twitter is True North CFL Pod.
So yeah, make sure to give those a follow. We are gonna have 2 clips from last week's show coming out, probably right before this one or right after. That's just because our editor had some technical issues, so we couldn't obviously have those out earlier, otherwise we would. They're still relevant. One of the clips is just about the CFL draft prospects and kind of giving an analysis of the CFL draft. That'll stand on its own for those of you who are really fans of the CFL draft to kind of dive into that and maybe discuss more in the comments. And then the other part of the show, the other clip that's going to be uploaded is going to be basically us discussing the possibility and why the CFL should have a video game of its own. Again, still a relevant topic. But yeah, that's it for the show. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is the True North CFL podcast signing off.